There is a certain kind of road you only notice when you have driven it too many times. It is not the scenic highway you take on vacation, not the crowded interstate lit with gas stations and neon signs. I mean the older roads, the ones that cut through farmland and patches of forest, that slip between forgotten industrial yards and abandoned billboards advertising businesses that no longer exist. The kind of road where your headlights seem to end too soon, swallowed by a darkness that feels almost deliberate. I used to drive one like that every Thursday night. I worked late in a regional office outside a small Midwestern town, the sort of place with a Walmart on the outskirts and a courthouse in the center square. By the time I left, it was usually close to midnight. Most of the restaurants were closed, the streets hollowed out, traffic lights blinking yellow in patient solitude. The quickest way home wasn't the freeway. It was a county road that cut across fields and skirted a narrow stretch of forest that locals simply called the Old Preserve. The preserve had a history, not a well-documented one, but the kind you hear about in low voices at bars or at backyard cookouts after the second beer. The land had once belonged to migrant workers generations ago, then to a failed commune in the 70s, and before that, if you listened carefully, something older. People would shrug and say, native stories. Mexican workers brought their own legends up here. They'd laugh, but not fully. One night, a co-worker named Luis stayed late with me. He was from New Mexico originally, and when I mentioned the preserve, he grew quiet in a way that didn't match his usual easy-going nature. "You know," he said, glancing toward the dark windows of the office, "in my grandmother's village they had a spirit they called El Silente." I laughed. "The silent one?" He nodded. "Not silent because it makes no noise. Silent because it waits. It listens. It follows. And when it finally speaks, it uses your own voice." He didn't elaborate. He just packed his bag and told me to be careful driving through wooded land after midnight. I assumed he was messing with me. I stopped assuming that 3 weeks later. That night was unusually cold for October. The sky was clear, stars sharp as broken glass. I remember because the air felt thin when I stepped outside the office building. My car was the only one left in the lot. Even the highway in the distance seemed subdued. I drove the county road as usual. The first few miles were uneventful. Cornfields on either side, their dry stalks rustling faintly in the wind. My headlights painted everything in harsh white, turning scarecrows into lanky silhouettes that almost seemed to sway deliberately. When I reached the stretch by the preserve, my radio cut out. Not in the usual static way. It simply stopped. The music ended mid-lyric and was replaced by silence. I frowned, tapped the screen, adjusted the volume. Nothing. Then I heard it, a faint sound, barely distinguishable from the hum of my engine. "Hey." I froze. It was so soft I might have imagined it, a whisper under the mechanical noise. I turned off the radio completely, the interior of the car filled with the raw sound of tires on asphalt. Nothing. I exhaled slowly and told myself I was tired. That's when my phone buzzed in the cup holder. I nearly jumped out of my skin. I glanced down, expecting a notification. The screen was dark, but it buzzed again. Not the vibration of a text, a longer, drawn-out tremor, as if something were trying to call me without actually placing a call. I picked it up. The screen lit up by itself. No app open, no notification, just my lock screen and the faint reflection of my own face in the glass. Behind me, in that reflection, something shifted. I didn't turn around immediately. My mind tried to rationalize it. A trick of the light, a shadow from the back seat, my jacket moving. But I live alone. I hadn't put anything in the back. Slowly, very slowly, I looked into the rearview mirror. The back seat was empty. I told myself to breathe, inhale, exhale. Then the temperature in the car dropped, not gradually. It was as if someone had opened every window at once. My breath fogged in front of me, and from the back seat, inches from my ear, I heard my own voice whisper, "Why did you stop listening?" I slammed the brakes. The car skidded slightly on loose gravel near the shoulder. My heart hammered so hard, I thought I would black out. I whipped around. The back seat was empty. No indentation in the upholstery, no open window, nothing. I laughed a sharp, brittle sound. Okay, enough. I checked every door at the next intersection, all locked, windows sealed. But when I got back in the driver's seat, the seat belt was already fastened. I hadn't fastened it. I stared at it for a long time. You know how in modern life we rely on small certainties? The click of a seat belt, the beep of a microwave, the glow of a porch light when you come home, they anchor you, they tell you the world behaves predictably. When that predictability fractures, something inside you fractures with it. I unbuckled the belt. My hands were shaking. The rest of the drive passed in tense silence. No radio, no phone, just darkness pressing against the windows. But in the side mirror, just at the edge of visibility, I kept seeing a figure walking along the tree line. It wasn't keeping pace with my car. It was ahead, always slightly ahead, as if it knew exactly where I was going. I sped up. The figure did not run. It simply appeared farther down the road. The following Thursday, I took the freeway. I didn't tell anyone why. I just avoided the preserve. But strange things began happening outside the road. I would be in my apartment brushing my teeth when I'd hear a faint murmur from the hallway. At first, I assumed it was neighbors. But one night, I stood perfectly still, toothbrush frozen in my mouth, and listened. The murmur was coming from inside my own apartment. "Why did you stop listening?" It was my voice again. Not recorded, not distorted, exactly as I would say it. I flung open the bathroom door. The living room lights flickered once, twice, then steadied. On my coffee table, my phone lay face up. It began to play a recording. I hadn't opened any app. The recording was of me driving, the hum of the engine, the faint rustle of cornfields, and then, clear as anything, my own voice saying, "Okay, enough." I had said that in the car. I dropped the phone as if it had burned me. The recording continued from the floor. Then it changed. The background noise faded, replaced by breathing. Slow, deliberate breathing. Not mine. And then a new voice, layered over my own. "We walked with your people once. You paved over us. You cut the trees. You forgot our names." I thought of Luis, of his grandmother's story. The silent one doesn't scream. It doesn't chase. It waits. It follows. And when it finally speaks, It uses your own voice. I called in sick the next day and drove back to the preserve in broad daylight. It looked harmless. A wooden sign near the entrance read, County Nature Preserve, open sunrise to sunset. Families hiked there, joggers passed by with earbuds in, dogs tugged at leashes. I almost felt foolish. I walked the main trail for about a mile, gravel crunching under my boots. The trees were tall but not dense. Sunlight filtered through in thin gold beams. Halfway through the loop, I found something odd. A clearing I didn't remember from the map. In the center stood a circle of stones, not arranged neatly, not decorative. They looked old, darkened by weather, and inside the circle, footprints, bare footprints pressed into the damp earth. They were fresh. I looked down at my own shoes, then back at the prints. They were my size. I felt a pulse of cold recognition. I stepped backward. The footprints stepped forward. Not physically, but I felt the shift, as if something had leaned closer. The air grew heavy. The sounds of birds faded, and in the silence, I heard it clearly for the first time. Not my voice, not exactly. A chorus of whispers layered together, forming words only when I stopped resisting. You drive through us. You build over us. You forget. The stories say some spirits linger because they were wronged. Others because they were forgotten. El Silente is something else. It latches onto those who pass through its domain without acknowledgement. It doesn't want apology. It wants remembrance. It wants to be heard. And once it chooses you, it does not stay in one place. It travels with you. I don't take that road anymore. But sometimes, when I'm stopped at a red light in the middle of town, surrounded by traffic and noise and the comforting glow of storefronts, my radio will cut out. Just for a second, the world will dip into silence, and in the reflection of the windshield, I will see someone sitting in the back seat. Not a defined figure, not male or female, just a shape that seems carved from deeper darkness than the night outside. Waiting, listening. Last week, I heard my own voice speaking softly while I slept. My neighbor confirmed it. She said it sounded like I was having a long conversation through the wall. I live alone. I set up a recorder in my bedroom. The next morning, I played it back. For hours, there was nothing but the hum of the heater. Then, at 3:17 a.m., I sat upright in bed. I have no memory of doing so. On the recording, my eyes are open. My head tilts slightly, as if listening to someone just beyond the camera's view. And I say, I hear you. There is a pause, a long one. Then, every electronic device in the room powers on simultaneously. The lamp, the television, my laptop, the screen fills with static, and from that static emerges a sound like wind moving through cornfields. Dry, endless. Beneath it, thousands of layered whispers, not angry, not pleading, just present. And as I watch the footage, as I listen to my own voice merge with that sound, I understand something that makes my blood run cold. It was never trying to frighten me. Fear was simply the easiest way to make me listen. Now that I have listened, it no longer needs to whisper. Sometimes, When I drive at night, even on busy highways, I feel the car grow heavier, as if more passengers have taken their seats. I don't look in the mirror anymore, because I know what I'll see. Not a single figure, but rows of them, silent, patient, waiting for the world to quiet down long enough. Ek kioi, for them to be heard.